Imagine for a moment that you could free yourself from all anxiety, all discontent, all suffering. Not for a brief instant of distraction, but permanently. And what if that liberation didn't depend on a god, a prayer, or a ritual, but on a deep dive into your own mind? This is the radical promise that has echoed for more than 2,500 years from the journey of an Indian prince who renounced everything to find an answer to the human condition. He was not a god, though he would later be revered as one. He was a man named Siddhartha Gautama. His quest and his discovery would give rise to one of humanity's greatest spiritual currents, Buddhism, a religious philosophy that would spread from India across East Asia and eventually to the world, shaping the lives of millions with its message of compassion, wisdom, and inner peace. Today, we will follow in the footsteps of that prince, decipher the core concepts of his teaching, explore the various schools that flourished from his words, and discover why, in an increasingly fast-paced and chaotic world, the Buddha's ancient wisdom resonates with startling relevance. This is the story of Buddhism. To understand Buddhism, we first need to understand the world that forged it. Siddhartha Gautama was born around the 5th century BCE in what is now Nepal during a period of intellectual and spiritual ferment in India. The ancient Vedic religion, with its complex rituals and caste system, was being questioned. New teachers and philosophers roamed the Ganges Valley, offering alternative worldviews and debating the nature of reality, of the self, and the path to liberation. It was in this landscape of spiritual seeking that our protagonist was born. According to tradition, Siddhartha was a prince of the Shakya clan, living a life of luxury and pleasures in his father's palace. The king, warned by a prophecy that his son would become either a great monarch or a great spiritual master, surrounded him with every imaginable delight, shielding him from any glimpse of the world's harshness. Siddhartha married, had a son, and lived in a bubble of artificial perfection. But the seed of restlessness had been planted. At 29, driven by irresistible curiosity, he made 4 excursions beyond the palace walls, encounters that would change the course of his life and of history. He saw for the first time an old, frail man, then a sick man consumed by pain, and finally a funeral procession carrying a lifeless body. These sights, known as the 4 signs, shook him to the core. For the first time, he confronted the inescapable reality of old age, illness, and death, realizing that neither his wealth nor his status could protect him from suffering. His 4th vision, however, was of a wandering ascetic, a man who had renounced everything, yet whose face radiated a deep serenity. In that moment, Siddhartha realized there was a path beyond suffering. That very night, he made the decision that would come to be known as the Great Renunciation. He left behind his wife, his newborn son, his palace, and his future as king, and set out into the forest in search of an answer to the riddle of existence. For 6 years, Siddhartha plunged into the most extreme spiritual practices of his time. He studied with the greatest masters of meditation, attaining deep states of concentration, but found that they did not offer lasting liberation. He then joined a group of ascetics and practiced severe self-mortification, fasting until his body was emaciated, believing that subduing the body could free the spirit. But this too led him to a dead end, leaving him at death's door, yet no closer to the truth. It was then that he realized the fundamental error in his approaches. Both the path of sensual indulgence in his palace and the path of severe self-mortification in the forest were extremes. The true answer, he intuited, had to lie in a middle way. Revived after accepting a meal of rice and milk from a village girl, he sat beneath a fig tree, later called the Bodhi tree, and made a vow. He would not rise until he had found enlightenment. That night, according to Buddhist tradition, he was assailed by Mara, the demonic figure who personifies temptation, desire, and death. Mara tried to divert him with visions of beautiful women, terrifying armies, and doubts about his own capacity. But Siddhartha remained unshaken. Through deep meditation, he turned his mind inward, investigating the nature of reality, He saw his countless past lives, understood the universal law of karma, the law of cause and effect, and finally penetrated the very essence of suffering and its cessation. At dawn, the darkness of ignorance dissipated. Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, the awakened one. But what exactly were the truths he awakened to? What was the Buddha's blueprint for the liberation from suffering? To grasp this, we need to look at the heart of his teachings, a set of principles known as the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is the truth of suffering, dukkha. Life, in its essence, is marked by dissatisfaction. Dukkha is not just the obvious pain of birth, old age, illness, and death. It is also the subtler suffering of encountering what is unpleasant, being separated from what we love, and not obtaining what we desire. It is the underlying anxiety that permeates even moments of happiness, because we know they are impermanent. The second noble truth is the truth of the origin of suffering, samudaya. The Buddha taught that the root cause of our dissatisfaction is not in the external world, but in our own mind. The cause is craving, attachment, thirst. It is our clinging to sensory pleasures, our desire for things to be other than they are, and our yearning for a permanent existence in an impermanent world. This thirst is fueled by ignorance, our fundamental failure to see reality as it is. The third noble truth is the truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha. Here is the good news. If the cause of suffering is craving and ignorance, then removing the cause removes the effect. It is possible to attain a state of complete cessation of suffering, a state of peace and ultimate liberation known as nirvana. Nirvana is not a heavenly paradise, but the extinguishing of the flames of craving, aversion, and ignorance. The fourth noble truth is the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. The Buddha not only diagnosed the problem, he offered a practical, detailed guide to attaining liberation. This guide is the Noble Eightfold Path, a set of 8 interlinked practices that encompass every aspect of life. They are often grouped into 3 divisions: wisdom, right view, right intention; ethical conduct, right speech, right action, right livelihood; and mental discipline, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. These 4 noble truths and the Eightfold Path form the foundational structure of all Buddhist teachings. It is a blueprint for psychological self-engineering that begins with understanding the nature of reality and culminates in the purification of the mind and the liberation from suffering. Like Confucianism and Taoism, Buddhism developed a rich body of scriptures. The Buddha's teachings were initially transmitted orally by his disciples. Centuries after his death, they were compiled into what is known as the Tipitaka, or Pali Canon, the 3 baskets. The first basket contains the Buddha's discourses, known as suttas. The second contains the rules of discipline for the monastic community, the Vinaya. And the third contains the deeper philosophical and psychological treatises, the Abhidhamma. After the Buddha's death, his community of followers began interpreting his teachings in different ways, leading to the emergence of various schools. The most fundamental division is between the Theravada and Mahayana schools. Theravada, or the Way of the Elders, is the oldest school and adheres closely to the Pali Canon. Predominant in countries such as Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, its ideal is the Arahant, the worthy one, an individual who attains nirvana by following the Buddha's teachings and eradicating all mental defilements. Mahayana, or the Great Vehicle, arose several centuries later and spread through China, Korea, Japan, Tibet, and Vietnam. While accepting the authority of the Tipitaka, Mahayana introduced new texts, the Mahayana Sutras, which, according to tradition, revealed deeper teachings of the Buddha. The Mahayana ideal is not the Arahant, but the Bodhisattva. A Bodhisattva is a being who attains awakening but postpones final nirvana out of compassion, vowing to remain in the cycle of rebirth to help all other beings free themselves from suffering. This emphasis on universal compassion and on the concept of emptiness The idea that all phenomena lack an independent, inherent existence is a hallmark of Mahayana. Within Mahayana, countless schools blossomed. In China, Buddhism interacted with Taoism and Confucianism, giving rise to schools such as Chan Buddhism, which became Zen in Japan, that emphasize meditation and the direct experience of awakening, often mistrusting purely intellectual study of the scriptures. In Tibet, Buddhism fused with local traditions to create Vajrayana Buddhism, or the Diamond Vehicle, known for its complex rituals, visualizations, and tantric techniques to accelerate the path to awakening. Buddhism's influence in Asia was monumental. It brought not only a philosophy of liberation, but also art, architecture, literature, and ethical systems. Buddhist monasteries became centers of learning and culture, preserving knowledge and promoting education. The statue of the Buddha, with its serene smile, became a universal icon of peace. Buddhist concepts of karma and rebirth became deeply integrated into the worldview of many Asian societies. Yet the history of Buddhism was not without challenges. It faced persecutions, such as the one which it suffered in China during the Tang dynasty, and it declined in its homeland of India. In the 20th century, with the rise of communist regimes in countries such as China, Tibet, and Cambodia, Buddhism endured brutal suppression, with monasteries destroyed and monks persecuted. Yet, in recent decades, we have witnessed a remarkable Buddhist revival. Exiles like the Dalai Lama and Zen masters such as Thich Nhat Hanh brought Buddhist teachings to the West, where they found a receptive audience. Buddhism's emphasis on mindfulness and on meditation was embraced by modern psychology and neuroscience as powerful tools to reduce stress and improve mental well-being. Today, Buddhism is a global phenomenon. It is revered for its message of peace, non-violence, and compassion. So, what is Buddhism? Perhaps the best answer is that it is a path. A route that begins with acknowledging suffering, investigates its causes within our own mind, and offers a practical method for attaining lasting peace. It is a radical wager on the human capacity for transformation. It is a guide to living with wisdom, ethics, and above all, compassion for oneself and for all living beings. It is an invitation to awaken.